בויזי דיקובי נולד בדרום אפריקה בעידן פוסט האפרטהייד למשפחה נוצרית. אבל איכשהו מגיל צעיר הוא נמשך דווקא ליהדות. מגיל 6 הוא התחיל לרקוד בלט, ומיד התגלה ככישרון פנומנלי, כבן בלהקה של בנות. בגיל הנעורים הוא כבר קיבל מלגה יוקרתית, והצטרף ללהקת בלט אמריקאית מובילה, ואז הוא מצא את עצמו חי בארצות הברית. לאחר שעבר לארצות הברית, הוא החליט לצאת מהארון. ואז הוא גם מצא רב שמרן בניו יורק שהסכים להעביר אותו תהליך שלם של גיור. גיור שמרני, לא רפורמי, גיור קונסרבטיבי.
גיור כהלכה, רישום כיהודים במשרד הפנים.
עם השנים ולאחר שהתגייר, הוא הפך להיא, והיא הפכה לדוגמנית מצליחה, רקדנית בלט מחוננת, ובעיקר תומכת נלהבת בישראל.
Almost 24 hours going on to what is happening in Israel right now. And I started getting my notifications last night with the rockets that were being launched into Israel. And I thought, okay, check on my friends.
בימים בהם אין דבר אופנתי יותר מלהתנגד לישראל, במיוחד בקהילת ה-LGBT, הקול שלה הוא ייחודי ונדיר בשוק הדעות האמריקאי.
They continue to perpetuate the hate that they have for Israel.
היא מעלה מדי יום סרטונים תומכים בישראל, והיא עושה זאת ביתר שאת מתחילת המלחמה. והערב היא נמצאת כאן כדי לשתף אותנו עם הסיפור המיוחד שלה. ואני רוצה לומר שלום וברוכה הבאה לבלאמי בלוצ'י. שלום.
Shalom.
By the way, how's your Hebrew?
My Hebrew used to be good, but I think I'm very basic right now.
Okay, you know
So not so
shalom,
good,
you know ma nishma, how are you?
Shalom, ma nishma, beseda.
You also pray in
Very,
Hebrew.
very good. Yes, I do. I definitely do. It was much easier for me to memorize the prayers. I've gone back to reading in Hebrew again. I was bad and I got out of practice.
אז תהיו איתנו לתוכנית, אנחנו כאן עם בלאמי בלוצ'י, בואו נתחיל.
Sweet dreams are made of these.
פרספקטיבה מוגשת בחסות
Northern Force Security, פתרונות אבטחה בהתאמה אישית, כי הביטחון שלך זו המומחיות שלנו. Northern Force Security.
The Abergel Hairdressers Dynasty from 1940s Casablanca. Ronan Abergel, Hair Salon, 7163 Yonga Street, Thornhill.
Gold Star Appliance Repair, 5-star reviews. Appliance repair, installations, duct and vent cleaning services, serving Toronto, GTA, and Ottawa areas. Gold Star, we've got you covered.
אוקיי, תודה שנשארתם איתנו. אנחנו היום בתוכנית עם בלאמי בלוצ'י. First thing I want to ask you is, how did you get connected to Israel growing up in South Africa, and when do you think was the most important turning point regarding Judaism in your life?
I was at Jerusalem, I was at the Kotel, and I just had this overwhelming emotional reaction to it. I was just sobbing, and it wasn't something bad. But it definitely was when I had made that decision that it's time for me to convert.
As a ballet dancer, I read in one of the articles that sometimes on a Friday night you perform, and before the performance, tell me your ritual before you go on stage.
My ritual before going on stage was to actually say my prayers and light candles, blessing of the prayers, and also grape juice, obviously, because I can't have a glass of wine before a show. But it used to be, I think, very fascinating for people to see me walking around the theater with a kippah on for the day, because it was like, what is going on? And then just fast forward like an hour later, I'm in a wig and lashes and everything, and it's time to go on and do a show. So that was something that kept me very grounded, I think, really bringing in the Sabbath properly. Even though I was working, that little bit of time that I had for myself was very special and grounding.
Do you light the candles on a Friday evening?
Yes, Yes, I definitely do. It's something that I think when I was going through the beginning of my conversion, for me to fully immerse myself within the rituals was very important to me, and it was more meaningful than anything else. So that's something that I definitely keep, and it is that reminder that it's time to wind down, it's time to really connect to oneself and disconnect from the outside world.
How did it start? I mean, where did you find Judaism? How did you get into it? Especially growing up in South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, funny thing is that I growing up in a ballet circle and in a ballet bubble, I was surrounded by, my friends were Jewish. So if I had rehearsal on a Saturday, I would just spend time with my friend who would drive me to rehearsal the following day, and it would be Shabbat dinner the night before. And, everybody would congregate around the table, and there was such a sense of community and family and love. Just, and something that was so foreign to me because my family didn't have that. So I would say that's where it started for me. And that's when I slowly started to want to go to, a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah, or, oh my gosh, so we've got Rosh Hashanah. I was like, great, let's go do Rosh Hashanah. I have no clue what it is. I'm 10, 11 years old. I don't know what it is. But slowly but surely, I started to immerse myself in Jewish culture, and I stepped away from Christianity. And then I was too young to make such a choice of I'm going to convert. I didn't even know that was a possibility at a young age.
And how did your family react to it? I mean, not only coming out of the closet, but also changing your religion. I mean, it must have been very challenging for your family to take that.
I think for my family, it was mainly such a foreign concept because they see it as something that is a white religion. Just like what's going on internationally right now. Judaism is very much of a white religion. And growing up just at the end of apartheid, I was the first person to be able to go to school in my family with people that were white and of other races and learn to speak English and, not have curfews and all of these different rules of segregation around. So for me, I didn't know how to relate to them saying this is not something that we do. But I said, but it's God. It's the Old Testament. What are you talking about? So it was very difficult, I think, but it was more difficult coming out of the closet than it was in terms of religion.
To your family?
To my family, because I think that was when I got disowned, was like, okay, so we don't want anything to do with you anymore because that's a lifestyle choice that you're making.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you were lacking something at home that you were looking for a different religion? Because, I mean, let's face it, it's something very radical to do, to change your religion, your beliefs, to go, I don't want to say against your family, but to a completely different direction. Were you lacking something in Christianity and in your home that you were looking for something so meaningful and different?
I think what was lacking already from a very young age is the disconnect within my family. So I didn't come from a nuclear family. But there wasn't a shortage of love. So when there was this shortage of love and this plug was pulled out when my grandmother passed away, who was raising me, I was, the nomad child in the family, boarding school here, then back here, then. So for me to really want to feel as though I was part of a community and I was accepted in a Jewish community, I was accepted into a synagogue, so that was a strange feeling already. So it started, I would say, there, but it was a yearning more from not wanting to hear just because the Bible says, or the commandments are this. There was never a conversation in educating. I could never ask questions. So I didn't feel safe in Christianity as a religion.
Going into Judaism, starting already in South Africa, where did ballet go into this?
I started ballet first. So I started acting at the age of 9 professionally and going to school at the same time. So I didn't really have what I would call a traditional childhood. And then I found ballet for myself. It wasn't to make my mother happy because I was being paid. It wasn't to make somebody else. It was for me. And I liked the challenge and the discipline that it came with. And there is where I met people within the Jewish community. So already I was starting to search and yearn for something. And ballet just somehow put Judaism in my life.
Wow. And when you were dancing ballet in South Africa at a young age, you were still a boy then.
Yes.
Was it also different? Because usually ballet is for young girls. So were you like the only boy there? Tell me a little bit about...
I was the only boy in ballet class. I was older than all the girls. I was also the only black boy coming from my neighborhood that was doing ballet. So it seemed as though there was one radical thing after another. But for me, that was just normal. I didn't see how it was, okay for me to be doing a sport or to be pretending that I'm going to be running around kicking a ball or playing cricket. I could get away with playing cricket, but I had no interest in it. So I didn't see the point in any of that. But I definitely have to say I had a hard time with being a ballet dancer from a young age and staying in it. I was called a freak. I was called, you're an FAGGAO, faggot, and like all of these things. Wow. But again, I think the discipline and love that I had for ballet is what kept me going more than anything else.
And very fast you were discovered, I think, as an excellent ballet dancer. You got a scholarship, and then you found yourself in the United States, completely different than from your homeland in South Africa. Share with us a little bit about that transition from being so different in South Africa to being a little bit, maybe, I would imagine, more accepted in the United States.
Yeah, it was definitely something exciting. I couldn't wait to get out of South Africa, if I can put it in that way. But it gave me so many opportunities as well, because I wasn't fighting off, I have no acceptance here, I have no acceptance here. It was accepted. I was not the only boy in a ballet class. There was a ballet class with boys from all around the world. My main thing was I'm behind, technically. So I was trying to catch up technically to a 14-year-old, and I'm almost 18 years old, and they're at a professional level. So that was the only thing that that was in my head, was I need to catch up. I need to catch up. So even in terms of cultural differences, I didn't feel anything. I just stayed in the studio, or I was in the gym, or I was doing yoga, or I was just running to catch up the whole time.
Yeah, and very fast you became also a model in America?
Modeling came when I had already stopped doing ballet, and I was told, you should try modeling. So I kept trying out and sending my stuff out to all other agencies, and I never heard anything. And then the world's first and only all-trans modeling agency took me on, and it started there. And it was, I think it's something that I did have to step away from because of what happened. And just, I'm not somebody that's very good at keeping quiet, just because I have to, smile and look a certain way when I have a problem about what's happening in the world.
What's the difference between being just gay, like we know, and being trans? Was there a transition as well?
There was a transition, and I had to learn that there was such a big transition for the people that I had in my life, because they now had to, it was more of a massive change for them than it was for me. For me, it was a liberation. I just lived my like who I already was, and I didn't go from one extreme of being this butch, masculine, man that loved wrestling, whatever, to being this feminine person. I was always very feminine, very androgynous. So for me, it was just a natural transition.
And was it hard to find someone that will do the conversion to Judaism as a gay person and as a trans person?
Definitely not, because I started going to services in New York with a place called Congregation Beit Simchat Torah, which is the LGBTQ plus synagogue in New York. And that's where I started to get involved in the Jewish community. And that was the safest way for me to take a step in and say, I want to convert. But when I did do my conversion, I did it with a conservative rabbi, one-on-one. I didn't join a class. I didn't do anything because I was traveling a lot. So we would have my classes, just him and myself. And there was the most amazing experience that I've had with somebody that was so open-minded and so loving and giving of information and spiritual guidance.
Tell me a little bit about that process of converting to Judaism with that rabbi. What did it have to, what did you learn? And how did it change your everyday life?
It changed my everyday life because I think once I was starting the process, I really went all the way in terms of, okay, great, my eating habits, being Shomer Shabbat and all, when I started the conversion process, I hadn't fully gone on tour yet. So me observing the Sabbath and completely disconnecting and going all the way and was meaningful and very powerful, but he would give me exercises to do in essays while I'm on the road. So just because I'm in London next week, it didn't mean that I don't go to shul. It meant, okay, here's the synagogue. I've already spoken to the rabbi. He's waiting for you when you're there. So there was always a constant responsibility that I had and a reminder that I might not physically be in New York and I might not physically be there to have a class with him, but I have things that I need to do. I need to be, studying my Hebrew because I would come in and he would be like, great, here we go, read this.
And how did you
that's just it.
Yeah, and how did you overcome that challenge that, basically Judaism is against, being gay and it's considered forbidden. So how did you, what did the rabbi explain you that he accepted it?
Because, what he said to me was so powerful, and he said that everybody has a different journey, and everybody's journey is between them and Hashem. So whatever it is that happens within your daily life, that is between you and Hashem, because you are the one that has to answer for everything that you do on a daily basis. So if you can stand tall within yourself, within your faith and your relationship with Hashem, you're fine. The rest is, I can only help you spiritually and teach you about Judaism and what it means to be a Jew and how that is something that you take on for the rest of your life, because it's not just something that you wear. There's a history behind it that you are taking on, and that's the rest of your life. You're immersed in a completely different lifestyle than before.
Did it change in any way your core values, or also what values did you get from converting?
I would say at the core of it, it strengthened what was already there. And it made me more comfortable with what I felt inside, because there was always this tug of war between my core values and the morals that I have and my sexuality or gender, because there was always that nagging fact and thing in the back of my head going, it's not accepted, you're not accepted, you're not accepted. But then why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way about humanity? Why do I feel this way about davening? Why do I feel this? There were so many things, and that just made it more comfortable and safe for me to say, this is already who I was internally. This is already who I was inside from day one. It just brought it out to me. So if anything, he taught me that I needed to be more myself if I'm going to do this.
And how do you practice Judaism today? In what ways do you practice it?
In a much different way than I did before. I would say it's now no longer on the fly. I'm no longer on the road. I enjoy going to shul and going to services. I'm still very strict about fasting, like major fast days. For Yom Kippur, I still take very seriously. Even when I was performing, I fasted, and I would be doing a double show. I wouldn't have a drop of water because it was meaningful to me on a spiritual sense. I am very connected to people that I have built relationships with, and I found that the more people that are against Judaism and the most anti-Semitic people that showed who they really were in my life, now that I've gotten rid of them, more people that are aligned with me are coming into my life.
So that's the next thing I want to talk to you about. Can you explain me a little bit, me and my viewers, what is going on these days in America within the LGBT community that is so much against Israel? How do you explain it? How do they see the situation, and what don't we understand?
I think what has happened, especially in the U.S., is that there is this, there's this victim mentality and what I refer to as oppression Olympics. Now, when we look at oppression Olympics and we look at the boxes that I tick, I win. Too bad, so sad. But I don't have this mentality of I am owed something because I'm a minority. I'm not owed something because of XYZ. And I think a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community take on their gender or their sex as their whole personality. All of the things that I am, Black, Jewish, trans, South African, they make up a part of who I am. They make up a part of who I am. It's not my whole personality.
Because we're complicated people, of course.
Exactly. But I think for them, they've taken it on as a whole personality so that it feels as though every time that they are told you should feel bad for this group of people, they will buy it. They don't do their own research. Critical thinking has gone out of the window, and you cannot have conversations with them because the world has become a place in which is so polarized that the LGBT community are the most important people on the face of the earth. Don't offend them. Don't have conversations with them because you might, if they don't agree with you, you're the one that's at fault. Whatever happened to having different opinions and respecting one another because of those opinions? So we've reached a point in the world where it's gone so far to the left of like bowing down to people just because they are a minority, where they don't even know how to hold themselves accountable for their actions anymore. Because it's always an excuse that you can't say anything because they are the minority. They are oppressed. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, I think it's also a process of the progress,
Yes.
and of political correctness. Like you said, you're not allowed to say things anymore, things that are, thoughts and opinions. And people are so hyper aware of what they say these days that they just don't say it anymore. But there's in one way you can also say that it's a kind of ignorance, because you probably know that being gay in Gaza is like basically a death sentence. They throw gays off the windows, and we see even here in Toronto, we see every Sunday we see protests of the LGBT community, and they go with signs of free Palestine, from the river to the sea, and I see it sometimes, and I wonder with myself, should I try to talk to them? Should I try to convince them? Do you ever think about that? Maybe an explanation will help, or they're completely sealed to this idea and notion that Israel is actually, not against them at all.
I think that they're so stuck on this idea, and this is where political correctness went way too far.
Yeah.
Because then we saw cancel culture start to come in. So there we go. We got to a point where you're nailed to a cross just because you're a white man, because of the patriarchy or the color of your skin, blah, blah, blah. It became a language that became normal to use. And I think there's this massive misunderstanding of just because you go to an Ivy League college and somebody programs you with those words, you know better. I don't think so. There's no such thing. Being a highly educated person or being an academic used to be something that was respected. But this year, I look at these people with the encampments and everything.
Exactly.
I'm like, what world are you living in?
And these are people with information. They're not misinformed. They know.
Exactly. That these are people with information that have chosen to go and say, my feelings say I should feel this way. So now facts have turned into emotional standpoints. It's all about how you feel. Well, if you literally feel that way, then how about if we show you a film crew that is filming what is going on in Gaza, that is paid for by different media corporations and different conglomerates, and that the fact that it's being funded. If it is such a terrible thing, why aren't you asking yourself, if it's such an open air prison, all of these things, why are you not asking yourself how they have Wi-Fi? How? It makes absolutely no sense to me, because if there's no power, and you're in New York City, you can go outside and you can get on Wi-Fi around. But if it's such a terrible place, how are you getting Wi-Fi? So that there are all of those questions, but it's also people that are so small-minded and being the wiser ones that they don't actually realize that they haven't even left their little cocoon or their little bubble to actually experience what life is like for other people. They have so much to say about the Middle East, and yet they've never stepped a direction anywhere near there. They don't even know where to find it on the map. They don't know which river. They don't know which sea. They don't know that they're calling and using the term genocide, but then calling for an intifada. So you're calling for the genocide of the Jewish people. And then they come to talking about apartheid. What do you know about apartheid? What do you know about, the civil rights movement and the Jews that stood with Black people in the U.S.? They don't know anything about people such as, I'll say, like Rusty Bernstein, who was a huge help and who was actually held during the Ravonia trials and acquitted only, years later. And he was seen as exactly the same, that arrested as somebody that was seen as a terrorist within the South African apartheid government. And this was a white Jewish man who was anti-apartheid. Mind blown.
Chicken soup with fantastic matzo ball. Chicken soup. That is our penicillin. It gets rid of anything, everything, both emotionally, physically, ailments, anything in the head. It'll get rid of everything. And you need a little bit of matzo ball to just soak up that anti-Semitism in your digestive system and get it out.
But I think you also paid a price for your opinions. Even, explain me a little bit, because, for example, the modeling agency you worked with in LA, you stopped working with them because of your opinions. So you're paying a price yourself. I mean, can you give me maybe an example, even a recent example from after October 7th? Because I've seen your videos. You walk around with this Magen David all the time, and you walk around very outgoing, and you're very outspoken towards Israel.
I was walking the other day, and there was somebody with their keffiyeh, and we were walking, and I literally saw them start to walk within this direction just so that they could shoulder me.
Wow.
And I started laughing because I thought to myself, that took a lot of energy when you could have just moved on with your life. That took a lot of energy. Or you could have stopped and said, what is this?
And a lot of hatred as well.
There's a lot of hatred. And again, it's the misunderstanding of the fact that it comes from such privilege that you live in a world where you can criticize your government and you can criticize everything around, but you don't know how to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I shouldn't have done that.
Do you feel safe when you walk around the streets of New York as a black trans Jew?
I honestly have to say I gave up fear. I gave it up because I don't see how I could fully, feel safe within myself, even as a Jew, because with everything else that's going on, I'm at the core of it, I'm a Jew, no matter what. And I had to start and remind myself that I can no longer live my life or be in a space of fear. So if I feel like, okay, my intuition says maybe today go out later, then I go out later in the day. Or, I take a different route. But ultimately, on a day-to-day basis, the only thing that calms my anxiety down is to say that if I cannot walk in fear. And if somebody does do something to me, and they actually harm me to the point that I'm, they could kill me or do whatever, my soul is fine. My neshama is okay. Because I'm living my life from a place of no fear, knowing and praying that, Hashem has a protective light around me and will keep me for more days to come. That's how my constant speech in my head is just that reminder of saying, if I'm going to be in a place of fear, then they win.
Yeah,
that's what they want, is for me to live in fear. Then that's basically the antithesis of terrorism. To terrorize you and to make you live in fear. Yeah. So I refuse to do that.
And I want to ask you, what's the next step?
I've actually started the paperwork process and the phone calls with Nefesh B'Nefesh to start slowly getting everything together to make Aliyah. So that's always been something that wanted to happen.
In terms of the
from what I know, from the criterias with everything that I've been given, yes. I just need to make sure that I can get everything done, the FBI clearance and all the paperwork, also my name change and everything. It's not like it's, I have to go through different hoops and everything. It's all there. I just have to put it together and give it to them. But yeah, I've already started looking into that because that was always the dream, and that was always the goal, is to move to Israel. And I've said that for so many years.
Despite the situation right now, you have no worries.
That's where I felt safest. And I'm sure when I, arrive in Israel, it's probably going to be, I'm going to feel it even more. And I need to feel that activation and that the air of being in Israel again.
What do you see yourself doing if you actually make an aliyah and move to Israel? How do you see yourself integrate within the society there? Doing what?
I definitely still want to stay in the arts and in my field, because I think with ballet having given me so much, and even when I started teaching, it's something that I enjoy. I enjoy coaching. I enjoy watching dancers improve and come into themselves. And if modeling happens, then modeling happens. But I think ultimately I just want to be within the arts. I want to be in the dance community and anywhere else that will give me a chance to, you know, and accept me.
Yeah, and I'm sure Israel will accept you. Bellamy, Bellocci. By the way, where did you get that new name from? It's it's Italian. It sounds Italian.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Bellamy, I've always loved that since I was younger, because it was just like a, you know, the term of a beautiful friend. And then when I found it with the Y, I was like, great, then I can just keep that. And Bellocchi is like, Monica Bellocchi, I think, is one of the most beautiful women in the world. And that's how I put my name together. My middle name is Caprice, because I'm capricious, and I thought that's great. And my father's name is Gabriel, and so my next
Bellamy,
name is
Caprice, Gabriel, Bellocchi.
Gabrielle Bellocchi, and the Gabrielle was the beautiful kiss to my father, who can't stand me, but now I have his name.
Wow. And do you have a Hebrew name?
Yes, Aliyah.
Aliyah? Like making
Yes.
Aliyah?
Like making Aliyah, yes.
Wow. Okay, so Aliyah, first of all, or Aliyah or Bellamy, toda rabba for this fascinating talk. I wish you all the best, and you're an inspiring person, really. You are an inspiring person. You're very brave, I think. Toda rabba, and hope to see you sometime here in Toronto, and definitely in Tel Aviv.
In Tel Aviv, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Bellamy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sweet dreams are made of this.
פרספקטיבה מוגשת בחסות
Northern Force Security, פתרונות אבטחה בהתאמה אישית, כי הביטחון שלך זו המומחיות שלנו. Northern Force Security.
The Abergale Hairdressers Dynasty from 1940s Casablanca. Ronan Abergale, Hair Salon, 7163 Yonga Street, Thornhill.
Gold Star Appliance Repair, 5-star reviews. Appliance repair, installations, duct and vent cleaning services, serving Toronto, GTA, and Ottawa areas. Gold Star, we've got you covered.